is it, let's see, 9607.20. 9607.20. Suppose it is slide fastener, right? Suppose, I do not know how, right? But suppose part or what? That's a question one. Second question is, how do I know it's made out of metal? It can be made out of plastic and it can be made out of metal, which is stainless steel. This is so vague. For many other reasons, it's also not applicable. But this is just too vague, right? So I think after looking through this, you are safe to exclude the 9607 from your consideration, and you are left with answer C. Okay. One more point on this before I move on. In the exercise book, I kind of write out the legal reasons for elimination, and those are very important too, because they keep your attention not only to the just general considerations, because what I discussed, right, those slide fasteners, etc., those are just common knowledge, common sense things. But the Harmonized Tariff Schedule is a legal tool. So without it, you cannot really say, well, who in slide fastener and a coil spring are just totally different things. You must really state the reasons why. So when I describe this in the text, I try to do that. So let me just have your attention to the page 446 to see what it looks like. Let's see. Okay, note, when I talk about chapter 96, I refer to the note 1M that says the articles of chapter 96 are excluded. Section 15. And this brings us back to the theory, because to evaluate any number, we know that we start with a heading. First 4 digits is a heading. We look at the article description, such as wire, stainless steel. Article description. But that description is not absolute, because it can only be true if it conforms to other 2 points of the Harmonized Tariff Schedule text. So number 1, you look at the heading, which is article description, which is this, right? Article heading of the article description. Number 2, you look at the chapter notes, or I should say heading notes. Number 3, you look at what? section nodes. And this, my friends, all this, what I just described you, is called GRI1. Christine, what's GRI? GRI stands for General Rules of Interpretation. So, alas, you just been introduced to the first rule of interpretation. We focused on this first point. But the other points are just as important. Because depending on what they say, this may or may not include. So one article description says one thing, but the note says no, it cannot be. And how is this possible? We shall explore in a few minutes. But note 1M. Why is it section note? Because we're looking at sections. Notice, chapter, the way, if you recall back to the first class, the harmonized tariff schedule system is broken down into sections and then into chapters. So you have sections such as articles of metal, and you have all metal stuff. Articles of steel, articles of copper, articles of tin, articles of whatever. And then you have another section which is miscellaneous, like all other stuff, right? And because they're in the different sections, the way the harmonized tariff schedule drafters put it out is they said, okay, we're going to make rules that are applicable only to this section and no other section. We're also going to make rules, and we're going to call them section nodes. We're also going to make rules that are applicable only to this chapter, such as chapter 73, and they're going to be only applicable to that chapter, and we're going to call them chapter nodes. Okay? That's really what it is. It's pretty straightforward, but I think it's interesting to look what it is. So we are dealing with a section because we have a battle of sections here. First section is in section 20, right? Chapter 96. Recall the question, right? 96 versus 73. This is section 20, this is section 15. Because we have two sections, different set of rules apply. So we want to know what the section says. Okay. What's said is what's done. So we go to the section nodes. And usually the way the section nodes start is they say what's not covered here. And it says plainly, this section does not cover articles of chapter 96. So if it's here, there is no way it is there. We're still talking about GRI1. This is type. We're just checking the section nodes, right? So we're just following the rules. I'm not sure we're dealing with chapter notes here because we are dealing with a bunch of various chapters. But I think this is all I wanted to cover as far as this question is concerned. So this is the framework, the analytical framework that you go with. And you start within what's known as general rule of interpretation. And how many rules of interpretation are there? How many rules? General rules of interpretation. Okay, I'm not that mean, even though my face is red. My face is red not because I'm mean. Someone called me a lobster at the beginning of the class. Lobsters are not mean creatures. They're just trying to survive. And this is what we are doing here. We're just trying to survive the customs broker exam. So there are 6 general rules of interpretation, and there is one more US additional rule of interpretation. So we need to be aware of all general rules, and we're just starting one. But there is more to come. And they usually apply if you have a more complex analysis to go through. So this is a very basic analysis we're doing here. Even though it may seem kind of weird because you have to travel all over the Harmonized Tariff Schedule and compare various provisions, it is still relatively simple because you have things that are defined. You have buzzwords which you can rely on. Suppose if you don't have any buzzwords, that is difficult. So any questions on this? I want to do one more. Okay, let me do one more. And unlike boring middle stuff, this one has to do with food. That's it, here. So customs examiners. And this stuff came from the real customs exams of the past. I'm not making this up. Can I erase this? Okay. They give us, so here we have a fact pattern and we have a question and we have answers. Where do we start? We start with a question because otherwise we won't know what to look for, right? So we start reading here. Classification of coffee oil. Coffee oil. What is coffee oil? I'm drinking coffee here right now. Am I drinking coffee oil? It's brewed coffee. No. So we have, so now we're given, so you read, this is your target, to find out classification for coffee oil. Once you know classification, you know the duty, you will know what rules apply, you will know the free trade agreements, etc., etc. You will know how to declare them, and you will know whether there are quotas, restrictions, whatsoever. But very first thing is to say, where do you start? So fortunately, unlike in the real world where you have to start from the scratch, you have some starting points. You have 5 of them, in fact. And you're looking for the coffee oil. What do? You look, so do we want to look for buzzwords here? Probably we want to look for buzzwords, right? Because once we open up our inquiry to this, we're gonna need to know what to look for, kind of like that steel wire, right? In the previous question. So let's see, classification for coffee oil, and then I describe what the coffee oil is. Coffee, let's say the coffee oil is an extract of coffee. So it's an extract produced by the mechanical processing of roasted coffee beans. So we know that coffee beans coffee beans, then there is some kind of mechanical processing that makes oil, right? So beans is the basic. You start with the beans and then you go to the oil, and you do that by some kind of cryptic word, which is mechanical processing. And then we say what it is, what kind of ingredients it is composed of. It says it does not essential oils or sugar. So no oil. Essential. What is essential oil? We do not know that, right? But that may be helpful. So we kind of say essential oil. No, sugars are not added to the oil. It may be added as a preservative, for example, but it's not there. So it's probably organic, right? It is not decaffeinated, so no caffeine is taken out. So no decaf. So it has caffeine, good. We can keep going. And it is used in instant coffee. Wow. Not only we know something about, we will know something about classification, we will also know something about the process, right? Everyone knows what instant coffee is, right? So, no? Nescafe? No? You put it in hot water and boom, you have coffee. Yeah? Yeah, you know what instant coffee is. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of it myself, but I've known to have consumed it. So let's see. So I think we're done here. So, and it is put in the instant coffee. You are not writing this. You would probably underline this all the stuff, right? I'm just writing it down for you because I'm writing down kind of like my mental map. All right, but this is kind of my mental map that I have. So I know that this is not the end product. So this will probably not be my starting point. And I know this is not the. I know that this is not the beginning product, right? The raw stuff, right? So this. Remember the general principles with the customs drafter start with the very basic stuff, and then further down it is processed. Further down you keep on with classification. So, and I know it's not instant coffee. So probably this is not the starting point of my inquiry, because most likely instant coffee is a more complex product. And it will be somewhere towards the end. So probably it's somewhere over here, right? So this is where I start. And why is that important? Because understanding this will save you a bunch of time. And really, customs broker exam is about saving time. It's a time crunch. You have 2 minutes, 45 seconds. You flip an extra page, it takes you a fraction of a second or maybe more. So this is a strategy to save time again. So this is my starting point. What's the next thing? So let me the next thing is I'll just open up to this and this. I'll just use this one because it's right there first. And I know it is in what chapter? Look at the HTS, everyone. What chapter is it in? No, 15.15.29.0040. What chapter is it in? Chapter 15. How do I know that? That's exactly right. Because of this, right? It says 15 right there. The first two numbers is the chapter number, right? All right, great. So I need to know what 15.15 provides for. Let's check it out.